This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so basically, the session about today is like it's like APM. So APM is basically used for the mobile automation testing, and I'll be taking around you today the introductory session of APM automation. So myself, Aravind, and this is a short note about myself. So basically, so my name is Aravind, and I have like 11 plus years of experience in automation testing. So I deal a big experience with the frameworks like APN, Selenium WebDriver, Cucumber, testing engineering, Cypress, and so on. So, and I've been working with all few clients. I like high profile clients like Verizon, Standard Chartered, and like Ingrid Finance. And so I've been also with corporate training, associated with corporate training for around 6 to 7
Sir, your
years.
voice is not clear, sir.
Not clear, but just hold on for a minute. Just kindly hold on for a minute.
I hope it's clear now.
Yeah, now it's clear.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for the confirmation. So this is short note about myself. So I've been associated with the corporate trainings for around like 6 to 7 years. So I'll be dealing around with the APM automation for you for today. So let's get started. So what is meant by mobile automation? So mobile automation is nothing but whenever you use any specific application, whether it's going to be a iOS system or your Android system or your Windows system or anything, you take it up. So whatever you're going to test it, so basically it's going to be your mobile application. So whenever you move on to something like a device, whether it's going to be your iPhone or your iPad or your tablets or your Android phone, so basically we call it everything as your mobile automation. So even though we call it as mobile automation, like certain things like we'll be doing with the help of manual automation, sorry, the manual way only. So manual also deals with something related to your mobile devices and mobile application as well. So when we say like say mobile devices and mobile applications, so basically we categorize the application into three main types. So basically, what is these types is nothing but whenever you hold a device. So basically, you need to identify like what type of application you're going to deal with, or like say what type of application you're going to test with. So based on that, we have like say we categorize mobile applications into three different categories, which is nothing but your native application, web application, and hybrid application. Simple as it is. So, why we need to know all these things is like say, so before we test any application, whether you're going to test it manually or through automation, so you need to understand how your application is going to perform or what is your application is used to do it. So, due to this particular factors, so we need to know like what is our application is going to be. So basically, you can see like say what is a native application. So basically, we'll all use your mobile devices and iPads or your tablets. So whichever like inside the device, you might have like an app store or a play store. So whichever application is available as part of app store or a play store, basically we call it as your native applications. So because why we call it as native applications, like basically they are defined and they are configured in such a way to perform that particular operation on that particular device. You cannot mix an iOS application to an Android That means like you cannot do something like I want an iOS application to work on an Android. So that is not possible, because when it comes to native application, if it's going to be performing on the iOS, it should be perform only on the iOS. If it cannot work on your Android. And similarly, when you take the Android, so whatever is the APK or the application available, it performs only on your Android, not on your iOS. So each will have the respective diversity, and each will have their respective stores available in order to utilize that particular options. So most of you, like, by any chance, just I'm giving you a question. So by any chance, have you noticed like what is the extension of your application in your mobile devices? Whether it's going to be an iOS or an Android, maybe anyone can answer. Like you can unmute yourself and you can.
APK file you're saying?
Ah, yes. So APK is for Android, you mean?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, good. Thank you. So for iOS, anyone have an idea like what is the extension of the application? Okay, no problem. So for basically
Yes,
for iOS,
it is the
yeah,
IPA.
yeah, IPA. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much for answering. Yeah. So for, as you know, like for Android, it's going to be an APK package, APK, and for iOS, it's going to be your IPA. So as you see, the extension itself is totally different. So you cannot mix both these stuffs, or you cannot install vice versa for the installation. So this is how basically the native application will exist, and it will be like this going forward as well. So native applications is the main thing, because every app is developed based on either the Play Store or your App Store. So next segregation is going to be your web application. So web application is nothing but your device will hold your native browsers. Like say your browser can be segregated something as if it's going to be an iOS, the native browser is Safari, and it can support other browsers as well depending upon the device compatibility. It can be Chrome, it can be Firefox, it can be Brave browser, so any browser it can be. So and similarly, like again we have it in an Android, like we have like different browsers, and sometimes native browsers also available. If you take the custom skin applications, like say Samsung, OnePlus, or those kind of things, they have like what to say, base OS available, and based on that, on top of it, each organization will build their own customizations. So when you take their customization, Samsung has its own Internet Explorer kind of stuff, and OnePlus, I'm not sure about the name, it also has one. And apart from this, we can also have Chrome, Firefox, Brave browsers, and all these things we can have it up. So whenever your application open on a mobile device or any device on a browser, we call it as your web application, because certain application doesn't require an app depending upon the customer base. Everything it can do it with the help of web application itself. But if you notice it slightly in the Chrome or your browsers, so it will have an extension starting like say m.facebook.com, m. Website, some random website.com, something like that. So that means like say the particular version that you're using in your device is configured for the mobile only version. So that means like say when you open the browser in your mobile device, so it is configured in such a way like it will be open, or it can open inside the mobile device. So this is how basically a web application will work. And next one is like quite interesting one, let's call it as a hybrid. So hybrid is it's nothing but it's a combination of your native application and your web application. But basically, your hybrid is nothing but your web application altogether. So it is being constructed with the help of HTML5 and JavaScript containers, and then it looks like an application, simple as it is. But it's not exactly an application. It's just a web page that is being opened. So that's what we call it as a hybrid application. So why I'm telling you about this segregation is like, say, even though this doesn't affect your automation testing or your manual testing on your mobile application, big thing, but considerably knowing like what application you're going to do will make your work much more easier, because I know I don't need to create a package for a web application. Just I need to go to Chrome or Firefox and then invoke that particular package and enter the URL and go, and we can continue. Similarly, when it's going to be your native application, I don't need to have a web page. Just I need to install the package or the IPA file, and then I can continue. So this is how basically it varies actually. So that's why an understanding of our application plays a major role, and our understanding is also plays a vital part of it. So any doubts still here so far?
No, sir. No.
Ah, thank you. So let's move on to the next topic. So what are the prerequisites required for your APM mobile automation? So basically, like when you take, like, say, mobile automation, so we are going to deal with something called a programming language called Java. And if you have the understanding of Selenium, it's well and good. But again, I kept it under optional because everyone is here to learn, so we can learn everything. So Selenium, if you know it, it will be easier for you to learn APM, much more easier. And for Android SDK, you need to hold an Android Studio. So again, it's going to consume a lot of space inside your laptop or your desktop. And Xcode, we need to have it, but it's only for your iOS. So why these two things, the Android SDK and your Xcode, is nothing but, so Android SDK is used to create a simulator for your let's say it's going to try to create some Android home for a particular machine, so that you can recognize the devices. So whether you're going to connect the real device or the simulator or emulator, anything, it doesn't matter. So you need to have something, you need to hold something like Android SDK, so that you can able to create a device and use the device. And similarly, how for an Android SDK or an Android Studio is available, for iOS you need to have your Xcode. So basically, we need to create something called a XCUI test, where again you can create, or again with the help of Xcode, uh, uh, you can have a simulator or emulator, and also you can have a real device to connect and check whether it's working or not. So these four components are important, out of which, like, say, Selenium is, I'm keeping it as optional for now. So it's always like good to have a knowledge on Selenium. So does anyone have a prior experience working in Selenium over here?
Yes, 3 months I have experience on Selenium.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, okay. So if you know Selenium, it would be really great. If you don't know, also not a problem. Like, you can learn it as a fresh. So these are the prerequisites actually. So again, those last two things, Android SDK and XUI test. So if you hold a Windows machine, like, you can install the Android SDK, and but your machine will tend to become little slow, because it's like occupies around like minimum of 10 GB actually. So you are going to create a real device, so obviously it takes a lot of space. And Xcode, again, if you have a Mac machine, so again it consumes a little more space, around like 5 to 10 GB. And also you can create a new simulator device for you. So again, you can ask me like, should we use the Android Studio or the Xcode? So if you can spend your budget more, you can expand your budget more. You can go for some cloud services, or they're like Perfecto or Sauce Lab or browser stack or all these things. So that way also you can work it out, but you might not get all the devices, since you'll be registering it, and you'll go the free version. So free version, again, I think it comes around like 1 or 2 months. I'm not again quite sure on the time period. So that way also, if you ask me whether it is possible to use it, yes, definitely it's possible to use any cloud services as part of APM and mobile application. Maybe once when we dive into the bigger picture of APM, so I can show you one example on that. So any cloud services like which provides a device, definitely you can use it because like say testing on a real device, cloud device and simulator, there is always a difference actually. So nowadays, like the cloud services like browser stacks or perfectos nearly equal to real devices, but they cannot match the real device since they are in the cloud platform. So it's always best to go with the real device. So whenever you test any application, if you have your real device, like it's always a thumbs up actually. So simulators basically people don't consider it as a exact testing because it's a simulator and it's kind of a demo application or like say demo device that you create and it works. So usually for emulators like we cannot tell it as 100% tested. So only the real device it's always in 100% tested. So maybe a just quick question. So anyone is holding a Mac over here, or like say everyone is a Windows person over here?
I have a both. Actually, I'm
Okay,
using a Office Mac laptop
okay,
and personal is the Windows.
okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So I assume like other peoples are also using like Windows. So it's not like say I'm forcing you to go to Mac. So it's like if you want to learn things around, like it's for iOS testing, Mac is a good way. If not, like try to patch up with some browser stack or something where you can get at least one machine. I'm not quite sure whether you will get it or not in a demo version. I remember like you get like one device with iOS from the cloud service. So that we basically we'll be seeing one example for iOS, like how to set up and all those things stuff. So you can also have a practice on that. Yeah. So that's the main tip. So let's move on to the next one. So what about the APM? So our basic thing. So APM. So APM is nothing but it's an open source framework you use for your mobile automation, and it covers the different platforms as well. So you can cover iOS, Android, and there was one more platform available, Windows. So I still remember like we used to test Windows as well as with the APM, and it supports like almost a variety of programming languages. So when you say programming languages, it supports like Java, Python, C Sharp, Ruby, JavaScript, PHP, everything it supports. And next main thing about the integration of Jenkins, continuous integration tool. So continuous integration tool, Jenkins it supports. And when you say about like say now the latest things like Docker and all those image stuffs going around, like APM has something to do with that as well. So you can create an image for your APM and then you can use that one as well. And again, like as we had discussed previously, it supports it supports like real device and automation services like AWS device farm or browser stack. And yeah, one this is the main point actually for APM. So it is not like XUI test or Espresso. So how many people have used the Espresso or the XUI test by any chance? Have you experienced using the XUI test or the Espresso? Maybe I am assuming it as a no, because like most of our testing happens only through the GUI, graphical user interface. sorry about that, graphical user interface, but we don't use or we don't see what is happening behind the graphical user interface. So XUI test or the Espresso is a kind of tool where every time you want to run a test case, your code needs to run. That means your application code needs to run, and then you can understand the particular logic of it. So your APM doesn't work like that. Sorry about that. So your APM doesn't work like that. So basically, how does an APM work is like, say, you need a package or an IPA file that requires to be installed inside a device, and there is an interaction happening with the help of your actions that you're going to write and the graphical user interface as well. So basically, the XUI test or the Espresso, what happens is like, say, it doesn't require the application itself. So what it will do is like it will run its code on the developer's code actually. So it will perform some kind of unit test, and then, but if you ask me whether the interaction with the application will be there or not, yes, the interaction between the application will be there, and but not as a package or an IPA file. It will be as a separate. You run the code from the developer, and your test case will run. It will be like that. It is not like a package or an IPA file. So it's a separate domain actually altogether. So it's quite interesting one as well. So you can try it up few examples. So if you're an Android user, like Windows user, Espresso will be a easier one. So just download your Android Studio and just walk through some Espresso tutorials. So it will be very quite interesting. So if you want me to show, maybe I can also show one small demo, maybe in the upcoming sessions. And again, so again, that's what we have mentioned over here. The APM doesn't work on the application code directly, but with the application itself. So the application itself means the package or your IPM. Okay. Okay. So any doubts here so far till now?
What we can package or API means, I mean, we have to install in the.
In the device, yes.
Okay, fine. And also,
Usually, yeah, yeah. Please
yeah,
go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
Xcode, under Studio can be installed in the Windows and Mac, whereas Xcode can be installed only in the Mac, right?
Yeah. XUI test is only for Mac. Yes. Let me specifically mention. Yes, you're right. This is only for iOS, and Espresso it's for anywhere you can use it at Espresso, even in the Mac or Windows you can use it, but only it's for Android application, specifically to Android. Simple. Specific to Android. Okay, so any doubt here so far till now?
Can you please repeat on the APK file, sir?
Sorry, APK file.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So APK file is nothing but it is the package actually. So what your developer basically does is like he compiles the code and give you as a APK file. So or we call it as a package actually. So you can either install it separately, getting it from the developer in an Android device, or else what you can do it is like if your company's alpha or beta tester, you can go to the particular Play Store and then download it up. So basically, APK is nothing but like it's a package which consists of the developer's code. So usually, if you are holding an Android device, right? So they usually call it as a side loading. So side loading means like say you don't have your application established inside the Play Store, but you still have the package file. So I meant like say package is nothing but APK file. You can have it. APK
Okay,
file. So you have your APK file and you download it from somewhere, like say from a cloud service or something. Because usually what happens is like whenever a developer completes his code, he pushes the particular APK file inside a cloud service, and from there you can download it up inside the you maybe it might be an AWS cloud service or Azure cloud service, anywhere it can be there. So you put it over there, and from there you access it inside a Chrome or somewhere. You download it, you run it, or else what happens is like there is some other way that you can do it is like say we call it as a ADB commands. So ADB commands is nothing but it is used to interact with your machine to your device, more specifically the Android device, and also like iOS as well. So it is used to interact with the device and your laptop or your machine. So by which what you can do is like you can move the APK file from your laptop to your device and install it as well. You can do it very well. So ADB commands also, it will be helpful for you to install your APK file or package or IPA inside your device. So APK is nothing but basically it's a combination of code which is basically the application that is you're going to run on your device.
yeah, thanks,
So
thanks.
I am okay. Thank you.
So, so I
Yeah,
heard
yes,
that Android has some issue with the installation, and the latest version is not. We are unable to install the latest version of the APM.
okay, you mean the Android Studio, you mean?
No, no, APM tool itself.
Okay, okay. Okay. So the APM, like you can use it two different ways actually. So one is like directly you can download it. Like you can go to your website, like say you can go to like say APM uh, downloads. Just you can go to the APM download. The official forum itself will be available. So where you can download it. So usually I don't recommend directly downloading the desktop version of it, because sometimes there is a lot of issue available in the desktop versions when you see like maybe let me see. Okay, so there okay, let me put it like this: APM desktop version. Yeah, you have it over here. So you can download this one. So basically I don't suggest to download you this one, but if you're a starter or a beginner, just you can try it up. But usually what we do is like say we download it with the help of Node actually. So Node is the best way to handle your APM, because you can go to your terminal, like say I'm using a Mac, but it's also like compatibility with the Windows as well. So we have something called a NPM. So we need to install your Node, and then we need to install through Node the APM. We need to install it up. So I hold a APM via Node actually, which makes it more comfortable and easier to use it up. So whenever you have it, like say you can do it as APM start, and that's it. Uh, sorry about that. Okay, it's something related to my installation. Okay, let me check it out. But usually when you give the start, right? So basically like it will start your application and it will move about. So it is an easier way when you have it as a specific node actually, because in desktop or desktop version or your package version, so you need to download this one. Like for example, I need to download, so I'm using a Mac. So basically what I will do is like I'll download the DMG version of the Mac. Again for Mac, like you have like two different ways. So for the M1 version and the Intel version, based on the chipset. So again there is segregation. So each one will have a different scope and all those things will be available. So it is best to go with the NPM way, but still if you want to use the desktop version, like I think for the recent time I saw like I didn't face any issues. Maybe I'll just retry it in my Windows laptop, and maybe I'll let you know for that one if I face any issues. but for recent time I didn't face any issues so far for Android. So maybe I'll update it and I'll check it. Maybe what is the APM that I'm using? It's like basically APM double hyphen V. So I use the 1.21 version. So let me see. So 1.22. So maybe I'm not facing any issue. Maybe I'll try to update it and check it if there is any issues. But the last time when I tested, I don't see any issues popping up. So does this answer? If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So let's move on to the next one. So how does an APM work? So as I told you, like we have something called a Node.js available. So basically APM, whether it's going to be your desktop client or your Node version, like say the NPM version, your APM will work as a Node.js stuff which is running on behind of your APM. So and it exposes basically all the REST APIs available. So there is a client communication with the API, with the REST API, and it is handled by something called your mobile JSON wire protocol. So basically, your interaction between your client and your APM server happens only with the help of mobile JSON wire protocol. And it initially happens to the APM session created. So whenever you have an APM, there is a session available, it will be created. And then through the session created, basically it works through your application, and the interaction between the Android or iOS happened with the help of your desired capabilities. So desired capabilities, when I mention, it is nothing but something in the code you need to mention. Depending on that, the particular iOS or your Android works. So I'll show you at the end of the session. So what is desired capabilities and how does it work? So basically in desired capabilities, usually you mention about the what is the platform that you're going to use. So you're going to set the timeout. So what is the app, what is the package name, and so on so stuff. So it will be like a very interesting one, the desired capabilities. So if you don't mention a proper desired capability, your application will not be running. So that is the beauty of your desired capabilities or the importance of your desired capabilities. To move on to next one, so how does your APM work with Android? So there is a client library available, so it sends your request as a REST API. From again the REST API, it moves towards your APM server using the mobile JSON wire protocol. So again, mobile JSON wire protocol is the only protocol that interacts with your APM and your client service. And from the APM server, it connects through the device or the real device or your emulator, and the commands are used like here only there is a difference between your Android and your iOS. So the device, how it performs is like with the help of something called your bootstrap.jar file. Okay, based on your bootstrap.jar file, all the commands that you are going to send it from through the APM, it will be performing it on the device. And it's and it is and how does the Android device understands it? So your Android device understands with the help of something called your UI automator. So this UI automator is the most important thing. So it will be important for you to identify the elements in an Android device. But in iOS, it's a different scenario. I will explain it in the next slides. So and the UI automator sends the command from your Android device, means like it sends to the Android devices, and from the device whatever the interaction happens, it sends back to your APM server, and from your APM server it goes to your client. So this is how basically the underneath operation of a Android with the APM will be working. So whenever, like say in your interview, if somebody asks, you need to use these jargons like say mobile JSON wire protocol, bootstrap jar file, and UI automator in order to answer the question like say how does an APM work with Android. So similarly, with respect to the Android, so we also have something called your iOS. So how does an iOS work? So we have seen something called your in Android we have seen something called your UI automator, but here it's going to be the UI automator is going to be replacing your Xcode or XUI test. So that's the only difference. And your UI automator, like we have an additional one over here. We call it as a WebDriver agent. We have something called a WebDriver agent. The APM uses Apple's native. So let's start it off this one. So how does it work in an iOS? It's like in iOS, it's like a one complex thing extra. It will be using it up. So making our application testing a little more complex. So APM uses Apple's native XUI test API to interact with the UI component of the application. The client library is available. It passes commands, or it works basically with the help of REST API similar to that of Android. And the request what we pass it through the APM is with respect to the mobile JSON wire protocol. And the APM we have something called your iOS device. It connects to the iOS device since we are looking into the iOS configuration now. And the commands are interrupted with the help of WebDriver agent app. So how a UI automator works with help of for your Android, the WebDriver agent app will be working with the for your iOS. So WebDriver agent converts your iOS device the commands to be understandable using XUI test. So whatever the commands you type, so how does the device understand? So basically it understands your WebDriver agent will convert those commands and make the iOS device to understand with the help of XUI test. So without the WebDriver agent, without the XUI test, your iOS will not work. But this WebDriver agent and XUI test is not available in Android. Android we have separate UI automator available which takes care of the interactions. We don't have even in Android the WebDriver agent. The WebDriver agent is exclusive for your iOS. So again it follows the same thing. From your device the APM server is passed to your WebDriver agent, and from your APM it passes through your client. Whenever I client I mean it's going to be the set of library files, whether it's going to be your Android or iOS. So this is how your Android and your iOS, how it works inside your background. So any doubts here so far till now? Any doubts so far?
No, sir, no doubt.
Okay, so I hope you understand these two slides, because sometimes in your interviews they may give you this question like please explain to me like how does your Android and iOS works. So these two slides are like mostly important. So you need to have an in-depth understanding to explain it to the interviewer like these are the things that is being happened. So because this will test your core knowledge on your APM. So it's again an important thing. Okay, no problem. So let's go to our next slides. So installation actually. So coming to your installation part. So basically the installation of your APM. So again, as I reiterated, so your APM will have the desktop server version. So that also you can install it up, and there is a node version also available where you need to visit this particular website, and you need to download your node first, and then through the npm you need to download it. So you need to download your nodes. So maybe if you find time before we start our session, maybe tomorrow or sometime, like you can download the node. So whether you use a Mac or a package file or anything, no problem. If it's going to be a Windows file, it's going to be an MSI. So depending upon your Windows version, 64 or 32-bit, you can have it. You can download it and you can just run through it. That's it. You need to set your environment first. And altogether before this, you need to have to install your Java. That is basically more important. Install. Let's see. Java download. That will be better. So you need to download your Java. So that is also one more main thing, because our programming language that we are going to deal with this for the sessions is nothing but your Java. So you need to download your Java. So have your latest version of Java, anywhere between 8 and greater than 8 should be fine. So don't go lesser than 8, because we have almost passed, like say, by a greater version. I think the Java latest version is 15, I think. So just download your Java. So I think a long time back I downloaded. Let me see. Yeah, so you have your JDK kit. I think it's 20 available. So maybe one step lower you take it. Don't take the latest version. There might be some compatibility issues with the APM. So always choose between, like say, one step lesser version of Java, because quite a frequently like Java has been releasing a lot. Maybe you can take this 17 version and you can install it up. So it's just a simple file available. You can just download it up. Okay, this is for Linux. For Mac it's available DMG. For Windows again it's available. Just download the exe file. Don't download MSI or the zip file. So zip file is the binary version. So if you want to install, just go with the exe file. Again, for the Mac, if you're using a Mac, go with the DMG file. Okay, so again you need to check, like say, whether you're going to use an Intel version or the M1 version of it. So depending on that, you need to download the Mac. So based on it, just download and run the file. So Java is very important, because if you want to verify after installation your Java, what is the version? Java hyphen version. You can use it up. So you can see I am using a 11 version. So I didn't upgrade it up till 17. So 11 should be fine. Should be compatible. And yes. So Java is the main thing. So if you install the node actually, sorry, or the node.js one, so just click on this particular things, whichever is your, depending upon your version. And once you run through it, you can give, like say, node hyphen version. So you see I'm using the 14 version of your node. So if node is not working, just use npm double hyphen version. So inside the node there is something called a npm. So npm is nothing but your node package manager. So you can check all these stuffs once you install your node. Okay, so these two are the main thing. So we need to have these two things, and then you need to install your APM. So APM you can install it as a desktop server way. So for your easier understanding, if not, you can install it as your npm. So I would really suggest you to install it with the help of npm, because when you write your automation script as well, it will be easier for you to run your scripts. No need to start the exe file directly, just you can use your npm and then start it off. So that will be a easier one. Okay, and for the Mac it's going to be a quite hard way to install, because it's not easy as Windows. So Mac, we need to have a lot of commands that needs to put in. So if you are using a Mac, always go with the npm. So it is a very easier way of using it. So again you need to download your Apple's version of it, where you need to download the particular Xcode. It's mandatory for your Apple. Xcode is really mandatory for your Apple. So you need to download that Xcode and install it up, either from this particular link, or you can install it again like this as well. Just download it and just run this command. And in Mac there is something like a homebrew available, so where we have, like say, we need to run this curl in order to check that say the brew commands are brew command related to Xcode is installed properly or not. And then we have something called mobile device brew install lib iMobile device, where it's going to configure, or it makes use of the simulator or the real device that you're going to attach to your device. It makes sure this that it will work accordingly. And npm install -g iOS deploy. So what is the meaning of this one is like, say, whatever the device that you're going to install it, it's going to be as a global, sorry, it's going to be as a global, and you can use it as it is, not related to the specific project. So when you mention like npm install -g represent global, then you install the iOS deploy. So it's one particular package inside your npm, which makes your iOS device much more easier to handle. And brew cartonage, it's again a supporting file for your specific device testing. So this installation is quite complex. Maybe once we deep dive into it, like we'll see it in depth, like how the APM is about. So still we have like 8 minutes more. So this is all I had for this today's session. And yeah, and one more thing, just an introductory to you about the ADB commands. So ADB commands is nothing but it's basically your commands which interacts with your devices. So one of the example easiest command that I can give is like, if you set up all these things, try to do something like an example command or easier command. I can do it like, say, ADB devices. So this is going to list all the devices attached to your laptop or desktop. So all the devices in the sense, it's going to include like simulator or emulator or real device. So anything and everything, it will be included over in your ADB devices. So ADB devices will help your commands will help you to control the uh, install side loading of your applications, and checking whether the device is compatible or not, even rebooting of your devices, and all those things your ATB commands will be supporting to you. So whenever you feel like, even you can use it for your personal things as well. So whenever you feel your Android device is not working, or you want to root your device, or you want to erase the contents available in the device, your ADB commands is the way to go. No need UI, just through the commands you can delete it, you can do anything over there. It will be very easy. So there's just a simple introductory session, so I have not put much into the ADB commands. So finally, so we have 5 minutes. Like you can shoot out any questions you have to me, and yes, that's all I had for the day. Yeah.
So they have removed the JSON wire protocol right in the latest version of APM.
Sorry, they have.
Removed the JSON wire protocol right in the recent version of APM, right?
Yeah, that's what I heard actually. It was removed, but still, like there should be a replacement over there, because without the JSON interaction, like the APM cannot perform. So it should be there somewhere. So underlying some packages. But the traditional approach is like this is how they approach it. Yeah. So any doubts here so far till now?
So what is the difference between running the APM through Windows as a desktop application or as a Node.js?
Desktop application is quite easy. So it's just a UI interaction. But when you have it through the npm, it is going to be like simple commands actually. So you will learn the commands the first thing, And also like when you want to run it in an automation way, assume a scenario like you want to run it, you want to start the APM. So you don't need to check for some external party tool like a JavaScript executor in Java. You no need to use it. There is something called process available in Java where you can invoke the npm and directly start the APM and run your use cases. So that is the only benefit I'm seeing. But apart from that, if you are a kind of a person like who is much related to the GUI version of any software, like then you can go with that. But if you don't want to use the GUI version, no problem. You have the npm as well. So both the ways are like say it's available. It depends upon our compatibility. But for scripting purpose, I think like npm is more beneficial to start and stop the APM or to do the session workaround. So npm will be more useful when compared to the desktop versions.
I mean, in terms of whether it is Node.js or a desktop, I have to just start and stop the server, right? Other than that, server has nothing to do with my scripting, right? So where I write the code is nothing to do with the APM server.
Mm. But how do you start it actually? So you need to like if it is going to be a desktop, right? You need to how do you start the exe file, and how do you give that particular port number in which you want to do and so on so stuff. Because we do it manually in the desktop version, but npm it will be automatic. Just you give like command apm start, it automatically starts the application. So all the logs will be available. But when you do in the desktop version, so basically we need to configure everything. So one advantage I see with the desktop version is like we can use it for identification of elements inside the application. So that I can see as a one insights of or the good thing about your desktop application. So any other doubts so far till now? Okay, so any questions, like say any queries related to the course and stuff? So basically, you can contact Mr. Kumar actually. So he'll guide you through the class and schedule and stuff. So
So
if
then
there is,
practically you will show now how to install the
yes, yeah,
tools.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, on the
Practical
next session
will be,
or
yeah, next session. Today is just an introductory session, like to show like you like what is and all we are going to learn about. In the upcoming sessions, we'll be installing like we'll start off with the Java part of it, and then slowly we'll be after we complete the basics about Java, we'll be moving towards the API part of it. Yeah.
okay. Thanks.
So it's really completely practical. There will be no like say 10% of slides, and rest of it will be practical, complete practical. So any doubts so far till now? So if no other doubts, maybe we can close the session for today. Maybe we can resume it back tomorrow. And we'll start off tomorrow. We'll start off with the next topics. We'll start off with Java, and then we'll move ahead. Actually, that's from us. So thanks for attending the session. So maybe we'll catch up tomorrow.
Arvind, any possibility to shift this batch in the evening?
The batch, I think like the best person to get in touch with is like Kumar. So you can just contact him. Maybe I'll
Okay.
ping it in the group chat as well. Yeah. So for the timings and stuff, you can contact him. Even to be really frank, I don't know what is the timing is going to be going further. So maybe you can suggest him something. No problem.
Okay, okay, fine.
Yeah, maybe thanks guys for attending the session. Maybe we'll catch up tomorrow for rest of the things. Thank you so much. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.